2020 will bring big changes to the iPhone, and we're still finding some hidden treasures in Apple's betas. Let's get right to the core of this week's Apple News and Rumors. 2020 is shaping up to be an exciting year for the iPhone, and now we're hearing Apple may go even bigger with this lineup, and smaller. Let me explain. This week, longtime Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo, cited in Mac Rumors, said Apple will change the size of the screen in this year's lineup. So it would move to a 5.4-inch, 6.7-inch, and 6.1-inch display, meaning the 2020 XS sequel would actually shrink from 5.8 inches to 5.4 inches, while the XS Max would grow from 6.5 inches to an even more massive 6.7-inch display. Now, this coincides with what we'd already heard from DigiTimes a few months back, so the fact that it's getting repeated is a pretty good sign that it could be true. By the looks of it, Apple's not going to change the design on the 2019 iPhones very much, so 2020 might be the year to wait for if you're looking for an all-new iPhone. Some other rumors had said that they're going to be all OLED, including that XR sequel, and maybe some flat edges on the side like the new iPad Pro design, maybe that smaller notch, potentially some different materials on the back. Most importantly though, 2020 is also the year Apple's rumored to be making that switch to 5G, thanks to that recent agreement reached with Qualcomm after a lengthy legal dispute. According to the report though, only 2 of the models, the higher-end ones, would have the 5G connectivity, so no 5G for the XR sequel. Also, no foldable iPhone in the works for 2020, at least not that we're hearing yet. And it could be that Apple's waiting for 2021 to launch a foldable iPhone, or it's just scratching that idea altogether and learning from Samsung's mistakes. With 2 developers' betas out in the wild and a public beta release coming soon, there's still a lot more to discover about Apple's new software updates that will be coming to your Apple devices in September. But the second developers' beta in iOS helps clear up at least one of the questions that we had after the release of the first one. What happens to 3D Touch? So let me explain. Last week we talked about it because in the first developers beta, the 3D touch functionality had been replaced by a long press or a haptic touch-like functionality, leading us to believe that Apple might be gearing up to remove this feature altogether from the 2019 iPhone lineup, like what it did with the iPhone XR. Good news for all you 3D touch lovers out there though, and I know there's a lot of you, is that it's back in the second beta, in its full functionality as pointed out by Apple Insider. So yeah, last week was just me and a bunch of other people on the internet reading way too much into the beta. It happens, sorry. The other interesting change about the second beta is that it's now available via an over-the-air update. So in the past, it had only been available via a direct update and then an iTunes restore, this one from 9to5Mac. The highlights, on the other hand, haven't changed much between betas, of course. You still have dark mode in iOS 13 and those video editing tools in the Photos app, better file support and multitasking in iPadOS, and the list goes on. And now on to the WatchOS front. We know that WatchOS 6 is going to make the Apple Watch even more independent from the iPhone. This because it's bringing a standalone app store to the Apple Watch. And now the second beta release provides even more proof of this. According to Mac Rumors, the second beta makes it possible to get over-the-air software updates directly onto the Apple Watch. So now, under the settings menu in general, there will be a new option called software updates, just like in the iPhone, except now it's directly onto the watch. Before, you had to go to the iPhone and download it there first and then transfer it to the Apple Watch. The other exciting software change coming to the Apple Watch is that you'll soon be able to remove native apps from the Apple Watch. You can currently delete third-party apps pretty easily by just long pressing from the app menu, but now it will apply to some of Apple's own pre-installed apps, according to TechCrunch. So I'm gonna say goodbye to the Breathe app, finally, for mocking me about not being zen enough. I know how to breathe, I don't need reminders. I appreciate the effort. This is also great news for all you dudes out there who don't want the Cycle app cluttering your app tray once that launches in September. So now for the question, what feature are you most excited to try out in September? Dark mode on iOS, voice memos on the Apple Watch, the Cycle app, I know you want it, video editing, it can be anything from WatchOS to macOS, but you can only pick one. So leave your picks on the comment section below, tweet, text, smoke signals, you know the drill. This week we learned an important lesson about reading into the betas, but that didn't stop us from placing our best guesses about this restore screen from last week. I asked you guys whether you thought the new screen in iOS 13 beta hinted at a change from USB-C to Lightning port on the next iPhone, or if it was a USB-C to Lightning fast charger in the box of the new phones. Mr. Argon Legends points out that there is a simple error which points to a Mac No Plus. So the iPhone will be shipped with a Lightning to USB-C and not with a USB-A cable. Robert Morin says, since the new AirPods use Lightning cable, I would bet that Apple will keep Lightning for this year. AirPods 3 and iPhone 2020 will certainly switch to USB-C. And this one seemed to be the consensus among most of you, that this is actually referring to that fast charging cable. However, there were some optimists in the bunch, like Ayan Haryani, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, who says it is not a USB Type-C to Lightning cable because the old recovery screen shows a Lightning connector and there are no Lightning connectors on a laptop. The connector that appears on the device is for the device itself. USB Type-C is coming on the iPhones for sure. Thanks again to everyone who sent in their comments this week, and don't forget to tell me about that one feature you're most excited to try out in Apple's new software updates. Next week, we're going to take a closer look at some of these features, so come back for more Apple Core.